On the irregular occasion that I have to go shopping at the store, the one thing I always try to bring with me, it's a list. I need to know exactly what I have to get and which aisles to go down to find it. Vegetables are down aisle 1, fruit is down aisle 2, milk and cheese and butter, it's in the back of the store. You really need to plan your route to be able to get in and hop out quickly. But after some time in the store, I look down into my cart and there aren't veggies and fruit and healthy food. It's literally all ho-hos, ding-dongs, and zebra cakes. I can't seem to figure out where I went wrong. I came with a plan. I knew what I needed to do. Then I see something else that looks really good and get distracted by it. Have you ever had that happen to you? Where you knew you were supposed to do something, maybe even something very specific, but ended up doing something else. Pause and share with someone around you about a time where you got distracted. What were you supposed to do, and what did you actually do? Part of this week's reading connects us with Israel, who is trying to rebuild God's temple. The only problem is, the Samaritans and other neighbors are worried that if the temple actually gets rebuilt, Israel might become super strong and influential, controlling the surrounding area as political leaders. So what do the Samaritans do? They distract, disrupt, and redirect Israel. This frustrates them to the point where Israel just sort of gives up and they move on to something else. Israel really wonders if God even wants them to rebuild the temple right now. Okay, enter the prophet Haggai. God uses him to talk to Israel and really calls them out after abandoning the temple project. God says this, "Is it a time for you yourselves to be living in your paneled houses? Well, this house, my house, remains in ruin?" God is saying this to Israel. You are super distracted. You're missing the point. You've made your life solely about you when it's actually all about me. Let's try something different in these videos and wonder out loud right here for a bit. I wonder how God was feeling when Israel stopped building the temple and started working on their own houses and projects. And I also wonder how Israel felt after God called them out after being distracted and focusing on their immediate life and not God's eternal plan. God doesn't just end the conversation right there. Instead, he really cements what he is saying in these pictures. You've planted much, but harvested little. You eat, but you never have enough. You drink, but never have your fill. Translation, you're taking the first step, but your focus is entirely wrong in your life. It needs to be me. These words and this message is repeated later on in history. Jesus used some of the same images during his time here on earth. We hear it like this, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water that I give them will never thirst." And then this one, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty." Again, Jesus is saying you need to focus on and come to me. Stop being pulled away by the things of this world. Listen, we all get distracted, and sometimes we even forget about living as a believer of God. But I want to challenge and encourage you today. The challenge is this: take a deep look at your life. Are you distracted, missing the point? Is it all about God, or is it mostly about you? And then the encouragement is this: Israel, 20 days later from Haggai's prophecy, started back on the temple project. And so be encouraged by God's word and this story, and start back on putting God first in your life.